I am bored. I'm also in a dorm room, so I can't exactly do anything exciting, but I have, over there, a very cheap hot air popcorn maker. This is, the brand is Rival. If the camera will focus on that base plate, it is actually labeled as Walmart, which is where I bought this thing. So, I'm a bit skeptical of its construction and build quality. So, that means time to take it apart. With the bottom plate removed, have mains input, a little DC brush motor with a bridge rectifier just sort of soldered together with discrete diodes right to the back of the motor. That's got 2 wires going in. There's a little switch up there with some, it's actually heat shrinked together. And yeah, then there's the wires going up to the actual resistive element. And then there's a blue wire coming back to the fan, and a red wire which goes back to the neutral. And the brown wire is the neutral return from the resistive element. And I believe how these things work is they simply use a small segment of the resistive coil in there as a voltage divider to bring the voltage down to maybe 12 volts or so for this motor, which rectified, no filter cap, pretty much as cheap as you can get, and no power transformer needed for the motor. Popping unit all comes out. It's just sort of little tabs, quick disconnects pretty much on the switch, so those popped right off with some pliers. The actual tunnel where the popping happens sits up in there like that. Popcorn goes in there, but the actual tunnel part just pops right off, leaving the actual heating unit and fan as this enclosure. Got 3 screws on it. I'll get those out and see what the resistance element looks like. The heating element and fan assembly consists of 4 parts once the screws are removed. There is this, I guess, air channeler, which also forms the base of the popping chamber. The popcorn would sit right there until the fan comes on and starts blowing air up through there. This is just, it's aluminum. It's kind of thin, but at the same time it doesn't need to be that structurally sound for the job it does, so this is actually decently built for how cheap this unit is. And second part is where the magic happens. This is the resistive element, and there you can just see it's got a wraparound of nichrome wire. It appears to be just a single, or yeah, it looks like there's 2 layers in there, just 2 turns around. Right here we have a permanent thermal fuse, so if there's a severe overtemperature event, this can disconnect the circuit permanently. I believe it's just a little spring and a solder blob, so solder will melt in case of an overtemperature event, and that will pull apart with the spring and physically open the circuit. Over here we have a primary thermal switch in case of a brief and non-repetitive or a more mild thermal overload. This will simply bend open and break the circuit, which will shut down the device for a while until it cools off to a safe temperature. And then over here on the blue wire there is what goes out to feed the low voltage motor that runs the fan, which is less of a fan and more of an impeller, like that. So, there you have it. That's what's inside a cheap hot air popcorn popper. I did not really expect to have two safety cutouts. I was expecting either, well, I was really only expecting the permanent thermal fuse in case of a severe overheating, but it's nice to know it also has a temporary one for less severe overheating events. There you go, little micro teardown. Yeah, I guess it's a teardown because I took everything apart that could come apart on this thing. And thanks for watching.